Hi, I welcome you all to this full course session of Advanced Programming with Python, and what follows is hopefully a crash course of everything that you want to need to know to start out with Python and web development. But why Python? Python is actually more than just a programming language. It is also a great place to begin with if you are just starting to code. With the popularity and versatility that Python bags, no wonder it is a great time to learn Python programming. So in this class, we will concentrate on Python programming and the web development using Python and the Django in the later part of this course. So before we begin, let's talk about the agenda of this course. So we are going to start out by introducing you to the Python, and also we are going to talk about the market trends and overviews of Python. Moreover, we also talk about the guided way of becoming a Python developer. I will talk about the step-by-step installation of Python and IDE. The IDE we are going to use is PyCharm, and then I will tell you how to write a simple program that will be a hello world program. I will show you some little configurations of IDE PyCharm, and we will implement a simple hello world example program. Next, we will talk about Python basics and fundamentals of Python. So we are going to talk about the commands, variables, data types, operators, and some other things in Python. Then we will talk about few popular Python libraries. If we have time, we will see the implementation and usage of NumPy and scikit libraries, and then we will talk about some file handlings, functions, and statements, if else statement, and then we will talk about some implementation of classes, object oriented programming, how we can do it in Python, inheritance in Python, and then in the end we will do the web development with Python, and we will talk about some other frameworks associated with Python. We will concentrate more on the Django, but there is also Flask and Web2. But for this course, we will stick with the Django, and we will implement full web application, which will be a blog application using Python. And obviously, for that, one need to know some basics of HTML and CSS programming. If we have time in this course, in the end, we will talk about immutable data structures. We will implement, I will show you how to do some filtering, some filter functions, map function, and reduce functions. So without much ado, let's go and start this course. Python is actually the fastest growing language in terms of developers, libraries, and application that it can be used machine learning, artificial intelligence, web development, or anything else like big data analysis or any other thing that you can think of. Python has always got you covered. It's a free and open source. It means it is available free. So the agenda of introducing the Python is actually we will talk about what is Python, why is Python so popular, and we will discuss some features of Python and where the Python is in action, I mean in industry, which firms are using Python, and in the end, I will talk about some career opportunities. What is Python? Actually, Python is a general purpose programming language which is high level, easy to learn, and dynamically initialized. The development of Python started out as a hobby for its creator, Guido van Rossum, in 1989. Actually, he wanted to make a language look easy for everybody to read. He used indentations instead of curly braces to basically describe the blocks of code. The language went on, but in the initial it did not receive concentration by other developers because it was slow as compared to other languages, as compared to JavaScript or C. So now, with the increase in artificial intelligence and machine learning, Python actually came into this sport because it actually makes the work more productive and much more easy. Now, scientists just want work to be much more productive, even if a language takes a lot of time. So their concern is actually the productivity, not the time. Now you know what is Python. We should move on and see why Python is so popular. Actually, Python is the best language to get started. It is actually, you can see that it ranks as the third most widely used programming language around the world. And this rating is actually done by TOIB and this is the latest statistics I got from their website. So Python is the third most popular programming language scientists are using, programmer developers they are using. The first one is obviously C, and then comes the Java, and on the third is the Python. You can say that why, I mean, still why Python is so popular. Actually, it is an easy language with easy syntax, you can say, and high level features that makes it one of the most popular language. The other thing is it is an open source language, so it is free for everybody and they can use it for every type of application. Every day there are thousands of programmers that actually come together online in making Python better and efficient. You can modify the code, you can break the code, or you can make the code. You are allowed to do anything you want to do without any problem. The other thing is it is actually suitable for all sort of applications. You can actually make almost anything, any type of applications, web application, mobile application. You can do server-side coding using the Python. You can do the client-side coding with the Python. And most importantly, nowadays, Python is so much important in machine learning algorithms, in development of machine learning algorithm, artificial intelligence algorithm. Anything that you want to make, Python is always there and it will give you a way to do that. Moreover, it has a huge community around the world and that come over together to support you and they can provide with and they are always developing the latest libraries for the Python for different type of tasks so that a normal user, a beginner user or an expert can easily use them. So it would work the same way as it does for you when you run the code. This makes the movement of the projects and systems much more easier. So it supports the portability. The next feature is the embeddable properties. Chances are that certain languages may perform certain functions better than the Python, but that does not stop you actually, as actually Python supports adding code of other languages into itself. to run those functions, which makes Python all the more powerful with others. The next feature is the interpreted feature. It is actually interpreted line by line, which actually means the management of the memory and CPU, and the debugging of the code is much more simpler. If you wonder by now why the Python is the language to start off with, let me tell you seriously that it is the Python that has the huge library spot that would help you to obtain solutions to your problem easily. You can get started off with the data science, web development, on the go with the Python, machine learning, data analysis, or other things. You may have the questions that how do the developers make the application that are so well related to the domain? Actually, that is because of the object-oriented concepts. Python supports object-oriented programming. That means you can model a real-world problem into your code and have security for it such that its access to them is restricted, and eventually it helps you replicate real world scenarios. Now you know most of the features Python possesses. Let's look where the Python is actually implemented in the industries. I mean, which industries are using Python? You know, Google is one of the biggest tech giants in the industry, and they are using the Python actually for the search features. And Dropbox is actually, it's a cloud platform, and its clients and server applications are actually also using Python. Next, there is also Netflix. Actually, they are clustering their users into the groups using machine learning, and machine learning is obviously they are using Python for that. Why they are clustering so that they are clustering their users based on their interests, so that once they cluster it, then they can retain their users for the longer time. So for clustering using machine learning techniques, they are using Python so that they can know what is this user is looking for, what type of interest he has, so that based on his interest they are showing him his ads or some other program so that he can keep using the Netflix for a longer period of time. Moreover, the National Security Agency of US also uses Python for cybersecurity analysis and for the encryption and decryption purposes for sending the messages or for some other documentation. They are using Python. BitTorrent also use the Python for to transfer the files between peer-to-peer communication. Moreover, NASA scientists also use Python to perform scientific calculations so that they can reduce the time and make the work easier. So these are the major companies actually who uses the Python. So now I hope you know that Python is one of the major and most popular languages in the world. It will motivate you that we should also learn the Python first. Now, if you are wondering that how you can learn the Python and where should we start from, I will help you that throughout this course. Obviously, whenever you are going to start a new language, you should know its the basics, which are actually the variable, data types, and operators, which will help you to understand different data types so that you can use it in your application. So you should know the variable, data types, and operators, which helps you to understand data and the different data types that you can use, such as numeric, list, tuples, and so many more. Naming data and performing different operations, which can help you to obtain logic or simple addition or subtractions and so forth. Once you understand, we will move ahead to understand arrays, which can be used to store data in a structured manner. And then in the later lectures, we will talk about the flow control of your program and how you can manipulate it using loops, for loops, while loops, and conditional statements, which are, obviously it's if-else statements. Then we will study different methods which are basically used to perform certain functions, which can be as simple as adding numbers to perform the most complex of work that you can think of. Later we will learn about how files are handled, where you can read the data from the file, write data to the file, and then in the later part of the lectures we will discuss object-oriented programming. And then once you learn all of these, if you practice more, then the more you practice, the more you will be expert. As you know, the practice makes you better. So once you are done all these basics, we will go and implement the Python with the Django so that we can build a web blog application, and that will be the end of the course. So by the end of this course, you will be expert in Python programming and web development, which actually will bring you to the career opportunities that Python holds for you. Web application development is the one of the best options that you can choose. You can choose the Django and Flask that can be used to create web applications. Then there is also a game development, and it is also a good career option that is available, where you can create AI enemies and bosses and graphic textures. Then there is another domain with the big data analysis, where you can enter and you can obtain the data helpful to make decisions and help different kind of analysis using Python. Web testing is also an option where you can report bugs and make sure that a website works well as required by the users. Then data sciences and artificial intelligence is one of the most famous fields that everybody wants to get into. In the end, IoT and smart devices are also using Python, so this is another place where you can enter and develop better infrastructure for connecting the world. So those are the basic career opportunities where you can enter if you have good skills in Python. Obviously, data science and AI, IoT and smart devices and the application development is one of the famous one where everybody wants. So that's all about introduction to Python. If you have any questions, you can ask, or you can email me at jawadrashid@gmail.com. Now move on to the next thing. In the next session, we will talk about how we can install Python, and then we will talk about different IDEs, and we will see how we can install PyCharm, because for this course I'm going to use PyCharm. You can use any other IDE of your choice. So we will see the installation of Python and PyCharm, and then we will implement our first application, a small application that will be Hello World.